everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Consilia on the Couch. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Lottie Kent. Lottie is the founder of True Financial Design and an award-winning financial advisor. Lottie is originally from North Yorkshire before she went on to study at Newcastle University and then moved down to London to practice as a financial planner, and has returned to her roots to run her own business, which enables her to capitalise on her passion for financial advice. So welcome, Lottie, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me, Laura.
So what we thought we would do today is, before we explore specifically what Lottie does to help individuals, particularly those that are going through divorce and separation, is we just find out a little bit about Lottie herself. And so my first question really, Lottie, is what made you get into financial advice?
Initially, so that's a very good question, Laura. If I'm completely honest with you, I fell into it. I did financial maths at Newcastle Uni, and then wanted to put my degree to some use afterwards. However, did some work experience as kind of an actuary and things like that, and thought, A, I'm not smart enough for this, and B, I want to be in front of people and working with people, etc., etc. So my cousin, who is actually a financial advisor, suggested, well, why don't you, give it a go and see how you like it. Didn't want to work for family or anything like that. So I then moved down to London after my degree, rang the A to Z of financial advisors and said, please, will you put me through my exams? Please, may I have a job? And I got my first job that way, and worked my way up the kind of ladder of firms, and then to where I am today, I suppose.
Brilliant. So quite a journey.
Yes, definitely. But I think the better the journey, the better the outcome. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is it that really drives you? Because I know you're extremely passionate about the work that you do. So what do you really love about your particular role?
I think the thing that is most rewarding, and I will say this time and time again, is the transformation that I see of a client. So from when a client comes on board, very often kind of a nervous shell. And then when they're at the start of the divorce process, extremely scared, they've got kind of a lack of control about the finances. They just have so much fear around their future. And
Mm.
then they blossom into this confident person like further down the line. And what's so lovely is, I suppose, the work that we do, we don't just stop once the settlement is sorted. We then become their ongoing advisor thereafter very often, and just to see how they progress into their new life. And I often end up saying to clients, I'm so proud of you, of who you've become. And that's such a nice thing to be able to do. It's just seeing that transformation is phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. And that real sense of empowering somebody, empowering them
100%.
to feel that they've got that control, that understanding. Yeah, that's brilliant. And so
Yeah.
is there anybody in particular then that inspires you in your line of work or personally?
Do you know what? I think we can all say, yes, there's a lot of people that inspire me, and anybody that's kind of further on ahead of in my journey, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
also just obviously some of the big names. I don't know, I have a big thing for Princess Diana, and kind of Brené Brown, Jo Malone, and all women that have been super inspirational to me along my way. But I think anybody that has kind of gone through a similar journey to myself,
Mm.
and kind of peers and things like that, I just think you can learn so much from everybody around you. And yeah, so I think everybody that has been part of my journey, I've been so grateful for, but also have been kind of a big inspiration to me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love that sense of collaboration, and that we can actually all learn from each other, and we can actually all help each other in business and in life. And the more that we give, the more that we gain. And I really like that sense of collaboration.
100%.
So obviously you work very hard in your role and running your business and helping the clients in the way that you do. But how do you look after yourself?
That is a good question. I must say I do work hard, but I do enjoy my time off too. I am a bit of a fitness fanatic. I love my trail running. I'm at the gym very often. I love my nice food. I'm very often kite surfing. It's my a big passion. And going and seeing the world and experiencing new cultures, been immersed in new places.
Mm.
Is a big passion of mine. So getting out of one's comfort zone and into a different place, I think is something that I'm super passionate about and thoroughly enjoy doing.
Absolutely. And so, how long have you been doing kite surfing? That sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody kite surf before.
Oh, really? Oh,
No.
so we have, oh, well, I've kite surfed since 2017.
Okay.
So yes, so we were in very fortunate to be in South Africa at the back end of last year, and so doing some kiting over there. So it's yeah, it's phenomenal. You definitely get then an adrenaline rush from it. I can't say it will be for everybody, but
No.
it's definitely a way to let off some steam anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a way to do it. Okay, so moving on now then to questions more about sort of how you help clients. And as I say, specifically, I'm really interested to know the role that you play and how you help clients specifically that are going through divorce and separation.
Course. So I suppose we have completely niched our business now to helping people going through the divorce process. And I
Mhm,
suppose the reason that we wanted to do that is we wanted to ensure people have the confidence so they can make informed decisions about their finances when they are faced with divorce. And
mhm,
that ensures that they don't make a financial mistake that they kind of live to regret or potentially live to regret further down the line. So I suppose what we offer is based on four kind of key pillars really, but that financial modeling and our visualize your future process is one of them. So we use our visualize your future process at every step of the way, and it makes a complex process very easy to understand and manageable. As it says on the tin, it creates a visual picture of certain scenarios, so you have the confidence to make an informed decision about, or a client has, about their future. So
mhm,
initially we help establish a client's needs from an income point of view, a capital point of view, and an income in retirement point of view, and then look at potential settlement scenarios alongside their solicitor, their legal expert, to ensure and see what those settlement scenarios mean to them, whether
mhm,
it fits what they're looking to achieve. If not, what are the shortfalls? If there are shortfalls, what are the consequences of those shortfalls and how do we remove them? And then, of course, I suppose post divorce, we help structure client settlement in the best way to ensure they're able to achieve the life they want in the most tax efficient and cost effective way. And I
mhm.
suppose our work ensures that clients are armed with the knowledge and the information they need to make the correct decision about their future, and they can see which solution is best for them as well.
Yeah.
The other, I suppose, three pillars are creating a long-term financial plan with confidence. And you know we support clients every step of the way through the divorce process along with their other experts as well. A lot of clients think of us as their kind of financial partner,
Mhm.
and I suppose we make clients aware of complexities from the financial side of things within their assets, and work collaboratively alongside their other experts to ensure that we exhaust every avenue. Do you know what I mean? No stone is left unturned, and that's part of our implementation pillar. So I always find during the divorce process, you tick one thing off and three more things seem to appear on the list. And I suppose by having the correct experts involved, it just means that you are ensuring everything is done correctly and implemented as it should be.
Mhm.
And I think it's by working collaboratively and having the correct experts on board, it just means you're getting to an outcome in a much more efficient way, but also with potentially achieving a much better outcome as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would echo that. I mean, I in terms of the the forecasting, and they look into how any given scenario would meet their needs in the future. I think that's so important, because it can be, as my role as a family solicitor, when we're talking about options, it can be incredibly overwhelming, and it can be really hard to actually reality test, what does that actually look like? What does that
Yeah,
scenario actually look like? Because all it is at this point is numbers on a page for them. And so being able to work through with yourself, Lottie, to actually understand the reality of that, and actually give them the confidence that if that is the right scenario, they've got the confidence of knowing that that's going to work for them. And so I think that's so important. And then I'd also echo what you've said about, having a team and having the right team, because with the right team, I agree, you can get things done in a much more efficient way. Everybody is working to their strengths, and ultimately ensuring that no stone is left unturned, as you said. And so I think
100%.
I would echo all of that. And from my, as I say, role as a family solicitor, the value that you add as a financial advisor, not just through the divorce process, but as you say, for years to come. It's often a lot more than just an isolated piece of work. It's a long-term relationship, as you say. It's a partnership, which
Yeah,
is
definitely.
so. I mean, that can't. We've sort of touched upon it really, but when's the best time to get a financial advisor involved, would you say?
Well, I always say this, and I think every advisor that specializes in the divorce space would echo me on this as well, is as early as possible. It is never too early to start the process.
Hmm.
And as much as it may seem a bit like a chicken and egg situation, should I get them involved, before I've kind of got potential settlement scenarios and things like that, I think we can speed up the process significantly. So as early as possible is key.
Yeah, and I think it's the same for me as a mediator when I'm suggesting that parties go off and get both legal advice and financial advice. I take a similar view, and ask them to do that as early as possible, because ultimately you can then sense check any proposals or any scenarios or any considerations before they get to the point where they feel like they've got an overall concluded agreement. And what I find that's difficult as a legal advisor is then when you then have to raise matters that perhaps they've not considered at that point, and it's difficult then to manage expectations, because at that point they're expecting that it's done, it's concluded, and so the earlier the better. You can ensure that ultimately they can make those informed decisions with all the relevant information and being able to consider everything as a whole. So, I would completely agree. The earlier the better, in terms of any advice, whether it's financial, legal, absolutely. And so, again, we've touched upon this, about the collaborative way of working between lawyer and financial advisor. And so, do you see those hand in hand?
100%. I think it's often thought that you need one or the other.
Mm.
I have to be very transparent with all clients and say, well, I am very transparent and say, I can give you all the financial advice or divorce financial advice under the sun, but I can't give you legal advice. If this were ever to go to court, I can't tell you what would stand up in court. Do you see what I mean? It's having the correct parties involved. And I think, as we've touched on, as you say, it allows you to exhaust every avenue from a financial and legal perspective to ensure you come out the other side in the strongest position possible. But as I always say to a lot of my divorcing lady clients, you wouldn't ask your hairdresser to do your nails, or you might end up with kind of shellac in your hair and peroxide on your nails. It just wouldn't be a good look. And I think you would go to the right technician for the job and ensure not only was the end result correct, but it's done in so much more of an efficient and cost effective way. And divorce is exactly the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that analogy. I've not heard that before, but I'll definitely be using that. I'm going to steal that one. But no, I completely agree. And getting it wrong can be expensive to unpick, or it can be
Definitely.
impossible to unpick in some circumstances, depending on the outcome. And so, I agree that making sure you've got the right team of experts, and ultimately, we can work together. In order to ensure that they get the best possible outcome. So, just in terms of how you work with family solicitors, then, in practice, then, how do you work alongside each other in a divorce case?
Yeah, so I think that the thing is we are very kind of flexible. However, I think what I would say is we are able, as divorce experts, whether it be legal or financial, able to talk the same language and put our heads together to ensure that, as we've said already, that every stone is unturned. It just means that you're, as again we've said already, that you're coming out in the strongest position possible. But I think the thing is by having that, but by ensuring that every part of the process is covered by each expert, and just constantly saying, right, well, we've got this. Is this the best situation from a legal and a financial perspective?
Mhm.
And just working together and having that open and transparent communication all the way through the process, just makes it so much easier for the client and everybody involved, and it actually reduces kind of costs because the workload is shared. Do you see what I mean as well? So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, if you can really work together as a team, and as you say, you're speaking the same language, then again, it's avoiding as well that kind of duplication of, you've very much nailed on where the advice is coming from for any particular matter and what's needed, and how everybody's going to play a role. And as you say, that can actually save costs. Very much so. Um, so I recently read the Fair Shares report that was published that looked into the outcomes for divorcing couples, particularly women. And it touched upon a number of different areas, which we've not got enough time to explore all of them. But I just wanted to touch on the point of pensions, because one of the things that came out in the report was still, I say in this day and age, but it does still shock me as a family solicitor. But there is still a massive underutilization of pensions as a resource that's available to the parties on divorce. Do you see that in practice when people are coming to you and you're looking at settlements?
100%.
And yeah.
And yeah, and good for you for reading all that Fair Shares report. It's an intense document. So it's I suppose highlight from it is that it does provide that kind of grim satisfaction. There's still so much work to be done in the pension
Mm,
world. Far too often pensions are just not understood, or they are emotionally considered to be almost like a untangible, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
right.
And not part of, sometimes not, they don't believe, the wife often sometimes doesn't believe that they're part of the marital pot either. And I think sometimes people think that pensions are just too complex and they would rather not deal with something so complex at the kind of time of divorce. I think people are scared by them, and because often there is that misunderstanding, or they're often misunderstood, and there is a lack of understanding, they are therefore often ignored.
Hmm.
And I think because they are essentially sometimes less tangible than a house or bricks and mortar, they are sort of, we've all seen the situation where a lot of people say, well, I must stay in the family home and I want to say goodbye to the pension. But in reality, is that because they don't understand the pension, and they understand how a house works? And actually, sometimes when you end up modeling that scenario in front of somebody, they're like, actually, no, I don't want to do that, do I? Because A, I can't really afford to stay in the house from an ongoing point of view, but also I'm going to be stuck in retirement as well. And it's just so important to understand the ins and outs of pensions. And, you know,
Yeah.
I think by ignoring them, clients can often be left high and dry in retirement. And we recently did some research and did a post, actually a social post, and on average, women have 77,400 less when they retire than men do, in if when they've been through divorced women. So it's, and that's because generally what of course used to happen, or very often, that it used to potentially be the woman that took the career break to become the kind of homemaker to the children, the family, and then there's a short window for her to then contribute to her pension pot. And that's why it's so important to look at all the pensions within the kind of marital pot
Yeah.
and determine how it kind of should be split. And fully understanding the types of pensions is absolutely key.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you've just said there, Lottie. It's such it's such an important issue that needs highlighting, and as you say, there's lots of work to be done on it still. And it is that age-old saying that people who are confused say no. So when you don't understand pensions, you back away from them. You don't want to engage with them, and choose more often than not to ignore them, and not understanding the true value, and not understanding that it's not pound for pound, it's not like for like. You can't compare a £300,000 pension with a £300,000 house. And so that education piece is so important. And again,
Mhm.
that's why I would just reiterate what you said previously about how important it is to get financial advice in the early stages. So when you've got that pension information, when you understand the remit of the pensions in terms of what's there, to explore, well, what does that actually mean in practice, and what are the benefits, and what are the considerations, and it's something that here we really push our clients to make sure that they've had that information and they've got that understanding, because, and not just about the pensions prior to any settlement, but also, after settlement as well. If there is going to be a pension share, where's it going to go? What are they going to do with
Yeah.
their existing schemes? And so there's so much to be done throughout the process in relation to pensions. And I think it really highlighted, I think, what we already know, that they are still massively underutilized, and there is a lot of work to be done to educate and to change the mindset as well on how pensions are considered. Because as you say, there can be a real individualistic approach. If for some reason it's considered different, a pension built up is considered different than savings that have been built up, or equity in a
Yes.
house. And so I think there's a lot to be done around that as well. And then on top of that, we've also had the second edition of the Pension Advisory Group report. So we've had a lot of really light reading over these
Yeah,
last,
it was great over Christmas.
and that again, that sort of echoed, again, that how important the issues of pensions are and how they need to be properly understood. Um, as a financial advisor, did you have any key sort of takeaways from the PAG report?
I think the thing is that I'd say the main kind of headline really is that even though they have done, PAG have been working extremely hard to almost make a streamlined approach to pensions, there is still not a definitive and a simple answer to all pension problems. And I think PAG 2 definitely kind of readily acknowledges that. It has tried so hard to, iron out all queries that came out of PAG 1, but they are complex matters, and without getting experts involved, the correct experts involved, mistakes are likely to be made. And I think that's the key thing. And obviously there's been various updates. There's been the kind of abolition of the a lifetime allowance, but there's the possibility that it might return if there's a change of government. Obviously the other key thing I would say is that we must be mindful of the wild fluctuation in value of defined benefit pensions, largely caused by Liz Truss's brief stint in charge. So it's really, again, making sure that you've got the correct experts involved, you fully understand what pensions they are and what type of pensions they are, and so you're able to make the correct decision for your future. Because if you don't understand the starting point of the pensions, or what type of pensions they are, for example, whether they're defined contribution or defined benefit, they're two very, very different kettles of fish. And if you don't understand the difference and you're just then comparing the current values, then you're going to come off not in the best situation or the best situation that you could have done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And ultimately, the bottom line is pensions are complex. They are
Yeah,
complex.
they are.
There's no getting around that. And the guidance is brilliant for us practitioners. And it's really helpful. But what it does is highlight how complex they are and how many variables there can be that impact on how pensions should be shared. And as you say, the difference between defined contribution and defined benefits. Whether there are any hidden benefits that, on the face of it, we're not equipped as family practitioners
Mhm.
to calculate, to evaluate. And so, it is really, I think from my big takeaway was there are only going to be a small number of cases that don't warrant getting a pension expert involved because of all the different variables. It's not just about the numbers, as you say, it's the type of scheme, and ultimately proper advice needs to be sought. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it definitely highlights that there just isn't one size fits all, and in order to make informed
Definitely.
decisions and get the best outcomes, that advice is absolutely imperative.
Yeah, and I think
So,
just to add to that, Laura, I think the cost. I think often people think of the cost of a pension expert report as just an additional cost, but I can guarantee you, if you mess up not getting the
mm,
right share out of a pension, it's going to make it you're going to lose a lot more money than you
yeah,
would have forked out for that initial report. And I think that's a key thing to it might seem expensive at the time, but actually to ensure that those pensions are split in the correct way for what you're both looking to achieve is key.
yeah, no, absolutely. And so we sort of touched upon it in terms of pitfalls that individuals or sometimes family practitioners can fall cropper to. And I think one of them we talked about was just comparing the valuations of one pension to the other. That's it could be a big mistake because it can lead to really unfair outcomes. Is there anything else that you see, when you are talking to clients or speaking to family practitioners in terms of pitfalls that they're making in relation to pensions?
Yeah, so I think that one of them is they're often ignored completely. That's one thing. Again, not understanding them fully. We don't know what we don't know. Even what seems sometimes like a simple defined contribution pension, we need to be checking, are there any guarantees on that pension? Is there any extra tax-free cash? Are there contributions going into it, etc., etc.? And I think um, by fully understanding that, you're able to make much more of an informed decision. But I think the other thing is that sometimes incorrect advice is given because clients aren't seeking financial expert advice while we're on the pension side of things. And some people have very, very good knowledge of pensions, others not so much. And it's just key that they are fully understood. The amount of times that I feel like I'm sometimes on repeat explaining the difference between a defined contribution pension and a defined benefit pension, and they are two very, very different things. And yes, they are pensions, but they both provide very different benefits. And it's just fully understanding those, which is absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what you said right at the outset. It's about understanding need, what the need is, and then how any given scenario is going to meet that need. Well, without getting that information about what the pensions will actually provide on retirement by way of an income, they're unable to work out whether or not needs can be met. And so
Mhm.
it's far more it's far more complex than simply taking the face value valuations, because what we're not going to be able to see from that really is the effect of any sharing on retirement in order to meet those needs. And so finally, so we've gone full circle now. So sort of moving back then to the cash flow modelling, which we started talking about at the beginning. So just as a bit of a final takeaway in relation to that, um, when in your opinion, then when does that really come into play in terms of cash flow modelling, and why might a person need to go through that process?
So I suppose it's applies kind of all the time through the negotiation process, if that makes sense. So it allows clients to see or fully see exactly what their future would look like, or what that potential settlement would look like before they commit to it.
Mhm,
So the thing is that the best time to do that is once needs have been established, and then we are looking at modeling kind of potential settlement scenarios over the top of those needs.
mhm,
And of course, they need to be updated as you go through the negotiation process. There'll be tweaks, there'll be changes that need making. And the thing is it just gives clients so much more confidence and evidence to ask for what and the reasons why they're asking for what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And then it just provides that in a very, very simple way. And as we touched on before, it makes a very complex process very easy to understand and very visual, because a spreadsheet can only go kind of so far. So yeah, it makes it very tangible. It kind of brings it to life to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. And so finally then, if there's somebody listening today and they're going through a separation, going through a divorce process, and they haven't got a financial advisor and they're interested in understanding more about cash flow modeling or their pensions, or just generally are looking for support throughout the process, how's best for them to get in touch with you, Lottie, and make that contact?
Perfect. Well, we always offer a totally non-committal initial call to really understand where clients are at, what they're looking to achieve. The best way to schedule that is by emailing us at hello@truefinancialdesign.co.uk, and then we can get that scheduled in for you, or visit our website, so which is www.truefinancialdesign.co.uk.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lottie, for your time this afternoon. I think that's been really, it's enlightening for me as a family lawyer. It's nice to catch up and just to share, our experiences as helping individuals that go through divorce, whether it's on the financial side or on the legal side, and hopefully that those that have listened today, even if they can take one thing away that they didn't know before and at the outset of this discussion, then I think we've done our jobs. So I will let you go, and thank you again, and hopefully catch up soon.
No problem at all. Lovely to see you, and thank you very much for having me.